Berrymans Chem Dip Carburetor Cleaner. Buy yours at O'Reilly's. Just kidding. I always like that radio voice thing. Welcome back to the community, everybody, and thank you all for being part of it. I truly appreciate it. Today, we are going to do a rebuild. I figured I would film it since it was here on a 34 Pict 3 Solex, which many of you have. I don't even know how many. I couldn't imagine, maybe 80%. If you remember the VW thing that I did the engine for. So here he comes. He texted and said he was on his way. So that made it convenient. That is so cool, huh? Very, very cool. That one there, we took out the time and put a barbed fitting in the top of it. But we didn't rebuild the carburetor. He said it was okay. And he was technically right, but the thing is, it was still dirty inside. So he asked me if I could rebuild it. I said, no problem. He dropped it off with a kit, and we're going to go ahead and get a detailed rebuild done. Let's get on it. So here it is here. This is a nice addition. And I did a video on it for putting a barbed fitting in. It threads in. It's barbed to hold the hose on, because a lot of times you're going to have the nipple slip out. And I'll show you that a little later on a different carburetor here. But this barb fitting was a nice addition. We did this to it to make it more safe. So I'll be giving a lot of tips and tricks with this. And I know I've done a couple, 2 or 3 before of these, but they're so far back, I don't think that many people scroll back. But something exciting coming up for everybody. I'm completely revamping the website again. And it's a great website. I love when people send in pictures of their cars. We have a viewer's ride section, tech section, which needs expanded further. But I've been putting my YouTube videos, embedding them onto my website. There's a reason for this. A lot of times when you go on YouTube, which is a wonderful platform, you are searching and searching for a video that you specifically need from me. Okay, I mean, I hope that didn't sound arrogant, but on my website, the videos will still be on YouTube. They'll be embedded where you can click and go to YouTube, but I'm making an index up. And you'll be able to go there, click on it, look, see which category you need. It'll be all on one page, and you click what video you need. How cool is that? Just trying to help the community out. And yes, it's still free. And what we have here is a Solex. I wanted you to see it wasn't something crazy, because I have so many carburetors laying around. See this here? These have a tendency of slipping out. And I've seen on the internet where guys will put a clamp on here for their hose, and then they wrap a wire around here to hold it on from coming out. Does that work? Technically, it does. However, if it still works loose a little bit, you're still going to have gas start coming out of there, you know. So you want to go to a barbed fitting that threads in if possible. And I did a video on it. It's not hard to do. Now make sure if you have a return spring, he must have removed it already. There's a return spring that goes from here to here. You see a little hole there. And that's what gives you your tension to bring it back. So it does make a difference. Make sure your return spring is on there. I'm going to go ahead and start disassembling it, and then I'll decide, is it going in the ultrasonic cleaner or just dipped into Berrymans, you know, and see how bad it is. So let's start taking it apart. What we're going to do first is take the top off. Now, when we are done, I'll talk while I'm removing these screws. Just straight screws, nothing fancy. There's 5 of them. And these are really loose. Somebody's messing with these. You have your 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those of you that are not familiar with them. So I'm going to spin these out. I think this carburetor was cleaned up at one point, but not rebuilt. And I don't know, rebuilt to me is the same as cleaning. You just need all your new gaskets and everything on hand when you do that. but it's definitely worth doing if you got one that's a little poopy. And this is for that VW thing, which he's been riding around, taking it to car shows, stuff like that, going on little adventures. So I'm glad when I did the top end rebuilt that it came out pretty good. And that's a good thing. Okay. Sorry if you can hear my neighbor screaming. It's unfortunate. This gasket doesn't even look that old. I think he took it apart once. Okay, number one mistake right here. Let me point it out. I'm glad I seen it right away. Do you see that? Okay, that's wrong. I call it horseshoe. That should not be facing that way. It should be facing, let me get it in there, that way. Because if you leave the hump facing that way, it can cause the float to hang up when it hits that. So make sure it's facing that way. I just caught it now, but we're putting that aside for this moment. So what do we have here? First of all, we have the fuel shutoff valve. So let me grab a 14. We're going to take that out. Take our 14, put it on there, and break it loose. Now, something you need to know about this, let me zoom in a little, is when you take this off, you're going to see a little spacer. These spacers come in different sizes, okay? So some of them are thicker, some of them are thinner. I did a video on adjusting carburetors, etc., etc. There is a difference in the spacers because your fuel shutoff valve, and we'll go over that when I'm putting it together, has to be set properly, or it won't shut the fuel off coming into the carburetor, okay? We'll go over that in the end, don't worry. Really dirty already. I'm not going to remove this because that is the opening to it. So I'll just blow that out. That's not a big deal. It's not going to make a difference. Okay, next, the choke thermostat is what I refer to it as. There should have been a mark. I'm trying to look it over before I take it apart. Oh, there it is, right there. Look, you see this little dot? It should be right there. Oh yeah, this is, somebody messed with this. Okay, let's start taking that apart. Now it's time to take the choke thermostat off. So now remember, be careful right there. You'll see it all around. Each screw has a plastic spacer. It offsets this bracket out. So don't forget to not lose them. Loosen that up. That up. Let me speed this up a second. As you can see, it has the spacers. They stayed on here, but not all the time they do. They end up falling on here and you lose them. Here's the little arm inside the spring, and it hooks onto that lever right there. And that's what controls your choke on a cold start. And it slowly opens it after it's warmed up. This choke spring will get hot, and that's how that works. So this here just slides out. No big deal. Ugh. Wow, there's a bunch of crap in this one. This thing really needs cleaned. Okay, let's move to the front here. We're going to go ahead and remove these 3 screws. That is on the front. Well, I call it the front. Some people get crazy and out of control saying that's the rear of the car, though. I get it. And I agree. But either way, I don't know why I put this here to set it on, because I'm holding it up anyhow. Now I'm probably going to have to give this a tap. There's a spring in there, so don't lose it. Like that. See? There's, oh, this thing's really dirty. Wow. Okay. Don't lose your spring. All right. Get this off without ripping it if possible. Wow, this thing's really in there. The heck? How is this running? Wow, I have never had to pry one out before. That's crazy. Ugh. I had to pry this out. It's supposed to move freely. I have never had to pry one out. Yeah, this carburetor was definitely overdue for a rebuild. Okay, now you can remove your nut here if you would like to and pull this whole arm out. I don't feel the need to on this one. It'll be easy to clean the flap and everything seems tight in there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the Berrymans. What I'm going to try first to see how clean it comes is Berrymans Chem Dip Carburetor Cleaner. Buy yours at O'Reilly's. Just kidding. I always like that radio voice thing. I'm going to dip the top part in here while we're disassembling the bottom part, and I want to see how well it cleans it up. Let's try that before dragging 8 gallons of water into the ultrasonic cleaner, because I got too big of an ultrasonic cleaner. So that's our Berrymans. You can get that anywhere. I think this one came from O'Reilly's. I can't remember. The nice thing about it, though, is you can use it over and over. I don't know how many times you can use it over and over. I guess till it stops working. So I can't verify that part, but I've used this stuff for a while. Okay, now everything is off that we want to remove. So we're going to go ahead, and comes with a handy dandy, and I'm not promoting them. Wished I had stock in them, but I don't. This is the only problem, is the basket's kind of little. So let's see what I can get in there. And the whole thing went in, as you can see, which is good. All right, let's start taking the bottom apart while that's soaking. I didn't know who needed to see this, but the directions are right here. Wear gloves when you're touching this stuff. I didn't touch it yet, so I get away with it. It really, really is good. You're supposed to soak for 15 to 30 minutes without heat, aeration, or agitation. And it says it's safe for use with most plastic and metal carburetor parts and throttle bodies, including steel, aluminum, and their alloys. All right. The maximum time they like you to soak for is 4 hours. I've never had to soak one that long. So here is the bottom section. First of all, let's remove the vacuum caps. And I just want to take a quick look at everything. Yeah, it seems like accelerator pump's adjusted where it should be to start out with. And this screw is usually hard to get out. I'll see if I can get it out. I hope I can get it out. I'm just looking for damage or anything crazy. Throttle shaft feels tight. Hopefully it is. So I'll probably... That's loose. Okay. Well, it shouldn't have been. That's the cutoff valve. Make sure you have power on it so when you test it. I'll go over the tips and adjustments in the end. So let's remove our screws right here while we're on this side. You can hear the O-ring squeaking away. And we'll go over these adjustments when we're finished. I'll tell you what each screw does, how to adjust it, how to adjust it when it's running, a little bit of everything. And hopefully it helps even one person. It's worth it. Okay, see there is an O-ring on there. Don't lose the O-ring, although if it falls off, then it was no good to begin with. I need a smaller screwdriver. All right, you need the eensy beensy to reach inside that one. This one's spinning a little easy, which I don't technically like, because if they're spinning that easy, then it means the O-ring is not sealing it off. And sometimes that can cause a vacuum issue, which will run lean and the car will run poopy. So hopefully the new kit has an O-ring in it. Not that they always fit good, but you know, this one here is like razor sharp on the end. So whatever you do, don't go cranking it back in if you fast forward the video and don't pay attention to the details I give. You'll puncture a hole in the carburetor inside. Okay, I'm trying to tell you things along the way because I know some of you fast forward and then later you're going, mine don't run right. That's right. Okay, I already caught this where it was on wrong before. It is on right now, but you never put it this way, and that's how it was on. That'll stop the float from coming up completely. Don't lose your pieces. You can see I'm keeping everything, you know, right where I can get to it. All right, let's take our float out. That don't look like an old Solex German float. Come on, get out of there. Get out of there. That's weird. Why is it sticking? Jeez. Now, this thing wasn't going to run right. There's too much of it needed cleaned up. The float apparently was not moving easily. Guess it's an aftermarket. Usually they'll have Solex on them. And I only see number 2081. And I can't look it up while I'm messing with this right now. Let's pop the Venturi out. Yeah, I feel like I don't have enough light here. Let me check. All right, that's a little better. I moved a little shop light, so to speak, over. And I was just trying to check this. We're going to be cleaning all of these parts very well. Okay. I'm going to come right out. Nope. This is like a press fit in there. That is where the fuel sprays from, and it has to go down inside evenly, but I'll explain that later. Okay, let's remove our idle jet right here. It's hot in the garage today. Very humid. Very, very humid. All right, I'm going to attempt to get this out. This one's always stubborn. Oh, no it ain't. Can you believe that? I usually fight with this one, believe it or not. Usually fight with it. Now we are going to flip it around. Let me grab my 14 to find out it's a 13. Give it a little smack. Oh, there we go. I'll be out of your way in a second. It's almost virtually impossible to not get in front of the camera sometimes when loosening or tightening. This don't have a washer on it, which it needs. It should have a little crush washer. It's not on there, which means gas could leak out of there. That's bad. This thing's pretty crummy, in all honesty. But then again, what do you expect? I mean, they're older cars. That's what happens. We're going to take the main jet out, and it is right there. So you're going to watch me reach through and grab that. I was trying to get a screwdriver that would fit in there. Come on, get on there. Trying to get at the seat. There we go. Now I can turn us back around. You're going to crack that loose, and you're going to unwind it. Now, something we do have to do, that's your main. I'll look and check the number later. This fitting right here, there's a ball bearing that sits down in there. That's the one. I will show you a little trick how to get out. I've showed it in the past. You're going to see that bushing down in here that needs to come out, okay? So what you're going to do is take a taillight screw. Yeah, one just like that. And now you're not going to crank it in there, okay? And don't pay attention to my bent screw. I use the same one over and over. No point in ruining another one. Okay, take your screwdriver and be gentle. Don't crank this in there. All you need to do is give it a little snug so it's tight. Okay, and you see that? Now this is the way I do it because you can't just pull and get it out. I take a pair of vice grips, clamp down. Now you've got to watch because you will lose the ball bearing if you're not careful. Take a little mallet, give it a little whack. Out comes the bushing. Let me show you. There's the bushing. It's just a press fit. I'm going to leave it on there because there's no point in taking it off. And there is your little BB or ball bearing, whatever you want to call it. Don't lose that. It's not the same as a Red Ryder BB. Okay. So we have, let me get cleaned up a minute. We have that all apart. Nothing's inside of there. Now we are going to go over to this side of the carburetor. Let me put this under here. There we go. And we are going to go ahead and remove these 4 screws. I didn't miss it. Got the other one out. The Venturi's out. I'm just going over it real fast. Yeah, that should be it. Okay. And you have a little arm here. So you got to decide which end you want to disconnect it from. Sometimes I just take this off and leave it hang so everything can get cleaned inside of there, because removing here or here is really not going to make a difference in the outcome. Take your screws out. Yep, it's dirty inside. There's even buildup on the spring. Okay, and here is the diaphragm down there. Doesn't look too bad, but we got a new kit, so we'll be replacing that. Remember which way your spring goes on. Okay, it tapers, so make sure you remember. I am going to leave this on. I don't see a point in messing with these little clips. Long as the Berrymans gets inside of here and here, that's what matters. Okay, so we've been dipped for 15 minutes. I want to take a look and see what the top looks like. Put my gloves on since I'll be messing with the Berrymans now. Now it's going to need rinsed with water, but let's take a look and see if we want to soak it longer. Let me move this back a minute. Besides rinsing with some water and blowing it out, it don't look bad. Let me get a brush. Yeah, that's all just falling off. That Berrymans is amazing. You can see everything's just coming right off. A little bit of dirt inside. It's all loose now. Now I could actually put it in for another 15 to 30 minutes, whatever, but it actually looks pretty good. I mean, you can take steel wool and polish your carb up to where it's like shining, but I don't think that's what he's after. I mean, I can make it look like chrome. Yeah, that did clean up very well. Okay, let me rinse it with water real quick. I'm going to blow it off with air. Give me 2 seconds. One thing I better do is give it a spray just inside a few of the little holes. I'm trying to watch I don't... Whoop, that was close. Spray the camera. And I'll show you where... Come on, get in there. Trying to work around the camera is not easy. Yeah, they're cleared out. When I'm spraying inside of these holes, it's coming out these 2 pieces right here and blowing them clear. So, okay, I'm going to rinse it off now and dry it off. So I think it come out pretty nice. It's nice and clean inside. All the passages, I blew them out really, really well. And I think it came out good. I'm not going to have to re-soak this one. It was dirty, but everything is moving smooth. Always make sure you blow all these little passages out. See them down in here? Inside of there. Make sure you blow them out. Blow your chute open where your fuel comes through, and you're golden. Okay, this is actually done the top half. Let's focus on grimy bottom half. Ugh. All right, let's get it in there. Now I got to see how I can get it in here. This will be adventurous. Okay, well, it made it. Yay! All right, I opened up our goodie bag with all of our new gaskets and everything. Watch you don't lose any of these little O-rings. Now, this one didn't come with the float, sadly, so we're going to have to use the original one over. So, I like the original Solex ones, but I have one left, and I need to keep it for the carburetor I have. So we are going to go ahead and recognize that this spring did not come with it, so we'll clean that up, and this spring didn't come with it. So, a couple things don't come with it, so don't lose your stuff, all right? Let's see what gasket we need first. There's ours. And that's not it. This could be it right here. That's not it. That's not it. That's it. Now, you see me go through them real fast there. But what the deal is you have to make sure you have all of these holes. That is very important. So everything else is fine. Everything else is the same. All right, let's get these out of the way. There's two different intake gaskets. I'll make sure to give them to him. Well, I'll give him everything back. The original gasket, really, it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it. But I'll pitch it just in case. But it does look like a good gasket. But we're going to obviously put the new one on. So set it aside, bring this over, and what we're going to do first is put our diaphragm in. That's what I call it. Now you have a hole here, an extra little hole. And as you see here, there's a little nipple right there that it goes onto. So you are going to, sometimes it can be a little difficult to get this to jive. People say, that's why you take the shaft out. Yeah, I know. Okay. Now, make sure, I got to take my gloves off. Sometimes I can't hold stuff with the gloves on. Make sure, and I'll show you as soon as I get it through there. Come on. Come on. I don't like this thin rubber compared to the factory one. Okay. Make sure you get that little nipple through the hole there. See that? Okay, let me get the front piece. I'm going to take a second, hit this with Carb cleaner, and scrub it out with a little brush. So we got that cleaned up. And let's put it together. We have our three little screws. Let me polish the heads. I like to do that. I'm weird. So now you have it all cleaned up. Clean, clean. This is what this is all about. Polish the screw heads up. Hit them with a wire wheel. There we go. And you peek in there. You ain't going to be able to see it, but you peek in there and make sure it's set up right. I don't know if you can see that. Then we're going to snap it into place. Make sure the gasket is seated all the way around. It is. I'm nosy. Yeah, okay. I was peeking one more time. Start your new shiny head screws in. There. Was that quick enough? See how that's all polished up right here? I could polish this. I mean, I don't want to take out that much time because I really don't think he cares one way or the other. But here, I'll show you something. This is triple O steel wool. But I'll show you what I mean. I ain't going to do the whole carb, but just show you something because I'm weird like that. See how nice that looks? And I mean, honestly, I've done them before where I literally have used Quad O, Triple O steel wool, and then I hit them with a little bit of polishing compound, and they're like a mirror. But I don't think I don't know if I would do it. And he'd go, well, I didn't care. So I'm not sure. But it would have been fun to make it like look chrome. So, okay, enough about that. So we got this cleaned up. I cleaned up the plastic housing really nice. And I cleaned up the choke thermostat real sexy and pretty. I sprayed carb cleaner and everything through there, brushed it with a soft brass brush so it would function properly. I'm spinning these spacers off, so don't lose them. Remember that. You don't want to lose that stuff. There's one there, because I'm going to clean up the screws and the little bracket, because that's the kind of crap I do. So if you're getting a carburetor done by me, you're getting a little bit extra. I'm going to go ahead and polish this up and polish the screw heads up. You'll see it in a second. Now, I cleaned this all up. Does that look good? You know, when you clean the screw heads and stuff, you'll see when I put it together, it just looks nice. Now, your indentions, see how they go in? Oh, let me see there.
Come on, focus.
The indentions will go in. So they protrude out and hold it. So what we're going to do now is put our screws and spacers back in. And yes, the bottom half of the carb is still soaking. That's been in for about a half hour, honestly, because I stopped filming for a short bit when I was talking to Heather. So I couldn't have Heather be in this video. A lot of folks have been saying they like Heather in videos, but some of them I just can't have her, and she would be standing here and, you know, picking on me, or, you know. All right. So you want them in. The spacers usually will hold the screws in place. So now what you're going to do is take your plastic cup, is what I call it. I forgot to show you something. There's a ridge here. See that ridge? I know you do. Okay. And you'll see a slot there. See the slot? Okay. That will make it all line up and fall into place. And it literally fell into place because the slots were lined up with the tabs on the cup. I said that without taking a breath. Okay. You have your little arm here, and it's going to hook on to that arm there. I should say little hook and little arm. So you're going to set this into place. Let me see something. Okay. And we are going to adjust. I'll show you in a second. I'm trying to fill something first. There we go. That should be good. You're going to see a dot. Let me try to get it to focus. Let me take it off. A lot of them have a dot like that, and a lot of them have a little slash across it. So you're going to make sure the arm's hooked, and you're going to dial the little dot to, this one needs to be about there, but I understand too why they had it a little tighter, because it was a little bit loose, but right there is perfect. So we're going to take this. You know what's funky about this? This is original. Well, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll show you in a second. Sometimes it's hard to work around the camera. Very hard. So I'm trying to do the best I can. I was going to put my GoPro on my chest. I have a little thing that holds it, so you're right in view with what I'm seeing, but sometimes the GoPro doesn't have as good a lighting. I have a GoPro 7, and I wanted to get a new one, a new upgraded one, but I can't afford it, or I would do it for you folks. I really would. Okay, now don't over tighten this. My dot's still lined up. I'll show you what I mean. Now, Don't go crazy like some big weightlifter, because you'll bust these plastic spacers. So what we have is our dot lined up where it needs to be. And we have our butterfly is working nice, our choke. Wow, she looks nice, huh? Nice and clean. But anyhow, what I was going to say is usually it's desirable if this prong, it's a male prong, would be here, because the wire comes around the back of the carburetor and hooks onto it. There's nothing I can do there. That's how it was when I got it, so it makes sense now. But okay. Next, we are going to put our fuel shutoff in, okay? And I'm going to explain to you what this does in a moment here. And we're going to put our spacer in. I don't like the one that came with it. I really don't. So I'm putting the stock Solex one in it. Yeah, nicer fit. Okay. I just don't like that aftermarket one. But you do what you want. You're going to put this in. Make sure the washer seats properly. Get your 14 millimeter. Here, let me use this side. Now you want it tight, but don't go crazy. You're talking about a piece of brass and aluminum. So make sure, here, wait, I gotta move the camera. Now, there is your fuel shutoff valve. This is how it sits on the carburetor on top. Boom, okay? See how this button goes up and down? All right, and what is that? Fuel shutoff. So what happens here is the float comes up when the bowl's full, hits this, and shuts the fuel supply off. You want that to be working, so check it. All right, so now you've gotten this far. Remember, I didn't remove the butterfly assembly. There was no point in it. Now this choke thermostat, while it's on the car, can be adjusted if he wants to make it a little tighter, but I like where it's at. You need that little bit of gap when you first start it. So, all right, this here looks pretty good. I'm very happy with what I see. So let's pull the bottom housing out of the chem dip and see what it looks like. So let's take a peek. That has been in for a half hour. I don't know if my arm's in front of the camera. Give me a second. I just don't see the need for the ultrasonic cleaner so far. I'm going to do a little scrubbing. So let me move this out of the way. And if it needs soak longer, I'll do it. I got to get a different ultrasonic cleaner. I love mine, but it's 8 gallons. And I don't have the water in the garage, so I've got to run up and down grabbing 8 gallons of water and getting it up to the garage. Where's my little brush? There it is. Let's see if this will loosen up. I'm going to hit it with carb cleaner in a second here. I ran out and grabbed the can last night because I knew I'd be doing this. Yep, that's nice and clean inside. Looks like it cleaned up pretty good. I mean, I got to spray and scrub, maybe another dip, but this stuff works amazing. Oh yeah, it did come out pretty good. Okay, I'm going to do a quick scrub on it with some carb cleaner, spray it down real good. I'll be right back. Clean this all up. She's all spick and span inside. There's, if you see this in here, that's not dirt. It's actually just the color of the aluminum at this point, but it is all clean. Very important. Every little hole you see, spray your carb cleaner in them. Down inside here, in your main jet, all these little holes. You get the, whoop, idiot. Come on. You have hole in there, and you have little holes inside the throat. Holes here, here. See, you got 1, 2, 3. They're very important, but one thing I can caution you of, put on safety goggles and a dust mask, because when you're spraying, it's going to come back at you. I didn't want to do that on camera and spray the lens of the camera because it would just wipe the camera lens out. So start putting that together. I'm going to take my gloves off since everything is chemical free now. I bathed it, cleaned it, rinsed it, and blew it dry. So let's go. Okay, we got everything ready here. I cleaned my little spring up. And we're going to start to put this together first so it ain't flying all over the place. Now you'll see a male end here, and it's going to go inside of here. Now, if you push this arm while you're doing it, it's going to push it out. So don't do that. Make sure it's lined up. We are going to put our spring inside of here, just like it came out. And we are going to set this in place and start our new shiny screws in. I shouldn't say new. I cleaned them up so they look a little better. All right, those are all tightened up. As I will repeat again, don't over tighten them and act like a nut, okay? Let's make sure the arm is moving free. Yes, it is. Nice and smooth. I like it. You want this to be moving freely. And I know it sounds crazy, but see when you polish the ends of the screws up, I shouldn't say polish, you can run them across the wire wheel. It just looks nicer instead of putting crummy screws back in. So, and that's why I did it on these. I just think it looks better. Now we are going to put this small screw in that we took out and our idle jet. It's a 55 idle jet. Sometimes you may want to go to a 60 just because of ethanol reasons, but that's up to you. It's your call if it's not running right. So we will take and put our baby screwdriver on it. There we go. Whoop. Slipped out. There we go. So we're going to put our idle jet in. That is an 8mm. So we're going to slip it in there. Now don't go crazy. Remember, brass versus aluminum. Just watch my fingers. Watch me drop my wrench. Just give it a snug with 2 fingers. If it needs tightened tighter, it'll let you know because it won't idle right. Okay, so that side's done. Now what we have to do is put our ball bearing back in there and that press fitting. So let's do that. There's our ball bearing and there is our press fitting. Now I am going to polish it just slightly with 000 steel wool. Do not wire wheel that. That is a press fit and you don't want it losing its friction. Friction was a good word, but there you go. Just cleaned it up a little wee bit. Okay, this is the part you might not be able to see well, but you have the idea. It's like going to an amusement park. I get to get the little ball bearing in that hole. So, all right, there went 1/4. I was trying to play the game and win. And it's in there. Now you'll see the ball bearing down inside. Now we're going to put this on there. And as you notice, my screw is bent. Let me get my little easy mallet. You want to tap it down in. Do not, by any means, hit it very hard and act like an idiot. Gotta get this out of here. I don't want to bend no more screws, so I'll just straighten this one back out in my vise. It's for working around corners. But you want to make sure that that's pounded in good, but don't smack it real hard with a big hammer. You want it flush, and it is seating flush down inside. So I hope that makes sense to you. It should. So that's done. That's a little straighter. I put it in my vise. Here's something interesting for you. It came from my dad's garage. I was able to get some of his tools. His name was carved in there. And you don't see that too much anymore. Made in the USA. Voghen. Oh no. I don't even know if I pronounced it right. All right, let's get our main jet in. Your main jet is, whoa, as we go around the mulberry bush, it's going to go right inside of here. So let's get that in next. So you're going to need a longer, slender screwdriver to fit through the hole to get in there. This is an original Solex jet. It looks to say 127.5. I can't see it real good, but that's not just a standard number. You're going to need what works for you according to where you live, your elevation, etc. So we are going to sneak inside of here and move very slowly like I am. Don't turn fast. There we go. And it started, because you will cross thread it. Remember, brass versus aluminum. Don't act like a monkey in here. Although monkeys are actually pretty smart, so. Okay, main jet is in. Now, we're going to cap it off. Oops, I forgot to clean that. It's clean. Put your crush washer on it. And we're going to put that on. I don't like this. I do not like how loose that is. I do not like this kit that he got. Nothing seems to fit correctly. I got to keep taking stuff from a kit I have. Oh, let me check the carburetor I have here. I'll just have him replace some of this stuff because I do need it. I don't want to have to keep buying it. But them washers don't fit right. See how nice that fits? And it won't leak. It's not sloppy. I'll have him just replace that. Stuff like that. When you're buying a carburetor kit, buy a good quality one. This one was junk. Now that fits nice. I took that off of my carburetor. I haven't said anything, but I'm probably going to be using a lot of my own stuff on here. I don't like China carb kits. Some of them are good, some are not. Okay, tighten that up. And the crush washer's in there from my carburetor, which worked good. Okay, on to the next thing. Now we have our Venturi. Make sure you spray carb cleaner down through this hole, and you'll see it come out of the little holes and out the bottom, because you don't want it spraying you in the face. So be careful. Put your Venturi in. Give it a couple turns by hand. I don't like how that felt. There we go. Try to reach over top of the camera. It's hard not blocking the camera. And I think I bumped the camera. There we go. Snugged it firmly. And that is the Venturi. I'm setting a screwdriver here so the carb don't fall over. So now we are going to go ahead, make sure you clean up this little pin that slides into the float, because if it's sticky or got gunk on it, the float's not going to move and you will have an issue. And the float will fall down inside because I'm on film. There we go. Now, this float, if you remember when I was taking it apart, was a little stiff. Now it's floating. I didn't mean to say floating. Floating. Okay. We have our new piece here. We are going to put it in like I suggested. I'll get out of your way in a second. Okay. I call it a horseshoe. The horseshoe faces the back wall. If you face it that way, then the float can stick coming up and hit on the outer part of it. So you want to do that. So far, so good. She's looking really, really nice. Everything works properly. I'm happy. Now we are going to go ahead and we're going to put the top on. Make sure you don't forget anything. Did you test the shutoff? Did you test the shutoff valve? Does it move freely? Go over everything before you put it together. Now this can always be adjusted while it's on the car. But everything looks good. Gasket's in there nice. Let's put her on. And yes, of course, I cleaned the screw heads because it looks nice. Now, make sure your surface is very clean. Now, don't go running a wire wheel across it. It is aluminum. And your surface here is all cleaned, because if not, it will leak. I like to use steel wool and quad O, maybe double O, but just to get it cleaned up. Now, make sure you have the gasket, and there's a little pin here that'll hold it in place. Let's put the new one on. It goes on one way. There we go. Should be fine now. So we're going to start putting our screws on. Let me toss some in there. When I go to tighten them, I'm going to use a crisscross pattern. That's up to you what you do, but don't crank them too tight. Remember, you can always go tighter if you have to, but if you go too tight, well, then you got to start making repairs on threads. Don't forget the little baby one up front here with the tag. Okay. She's looking good. Now we'll be doing some adjustments. Everything looks nice. Woo, my goodness. Still would have loved to still wooled the whole thing and polished it, but what are you going to do? What you're going to want to do next is your little spray nozzle. This is where the gas comes in and sprays inside the carburetor. You're going to want to put a little straw in there from your carb cleaner, spray in here, and it'll come out there. So watch your face. You want this cleared out because that is where the fuel sprays from. That goes right here. And before I push it in firmly, do not tap on the top of this. You'll bend the arm. I'll show you what to do. You need to make sure, now it's going to be hard for me on camera to show you. However, it needs to be, let me get a pointer. This spray nozzle cannot hit here. You don't want it spraying on top of here or the side of the bowl. This spray nozzle needs to spray right in between here. The spray nozzle needs to be right where that screwdriver end is, right in between here perfectly. So it don't spray this and it don't spray that. You want a nice spray right down the center where it's not deflecting off of anything. Now that should make sense. So I'm going to, it's hard for me to get right in front of the camera with that. Now, as I said about putting it on tight so it don't move around, you do not want to tap on this. It will bend the arm. See how it has a little ledge on it? I'll take my screwdriver, a little one, and put it on there and tap it so it's tight, and now it's not moving at all. Do not bang on this with a hammer. You will bend it. I just put my screwdriver right there and right there, and just give it a little tap. Let me do it again. A little tap. And just make sure it doesn't wiggle back and forth. It's nice and tight. And it is perfectly centered. It may not look like it on camera, but it is. All right, little tips and tricks. And I bumped the camera again. We are going to adjust this fast idle screw. Once it is adjusted, do not turn it. Ever, ever, ever. Okay, and the reason is a lot of people will turn this screw and believing they can turn the idle up and down. Well, yeah, you can, but you're going to knock everything out of whack. So once we adjust this for the fast idle, leave it alone. Now, what you are going to do is make sure that your butterfly is the whole way open. Obviously, it's going to drop down because it's cold, but I'm balancing this on a screwdriver so you can see. Sorry. This here you want on the lowest point when you're adjusting it, okay? So the butterfly is completely open. You are going to take a feeler gauge, and this is the size, even though it won't focus. There we go, 0.003. Now you're going to put this feeler gauge in there and you're going to feel a slight drag. Oh, can you see? You want it to where there's a slight drag on the lowest lobe. Actually, that does have about, that's pretty close. There's a slight drag. Now, when you feel that slight drag, and that's exactly where it's at, believe it or not, 0.003. Slight drag, just like you're doing a spark plug. You are going to take, when you have it at 0.003 with a slight drag, watch where the screwdriver's at. You're going to go one full turn in. So there's half, and there's one. That is adjusted to where it should be. It's very important that you do this. I am not going to get into a whole thing. I've done it on other videos. But you can tell now it's kind of barely touching. But that's what you do. Gap it to 0.003 on the lowest lobe, and then you are going to go ahead and turn it one full turn in. That's it. Next, what we are going to do is the smaller screw, okay? And that is the volume screw. What that does by screwing it in and out is it controls the air, not fuel. That controls the air. This is something you got to be careful with. It came with two. See the differences? This is just, I don't like this kit. And then there is the one that came out. If I had not paid attention and put this one in, I would have punched a hole right through the carburetor. So that's poo-poo. You don't want that. We are going to go ahead and put the O-ring on the new one. And I don't even know if I'm using it yet. Let me get the O-ring on. I don't like the aftermarket ones. Give me 1 second. So make sure your O-ring is on. A lot of times I'll put a little bit of dielectric grease around here if it starts sticking. Put this in, and you're going to run it down very slowly, just 2 fingers on a baby screwdriver. Nothing crazy, because the end, I can push a little harder and draw blood. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying that's how sharp it is. So you are going to wind it in with 2 fingers very gently, and you'll feel it stop. Didn't stop yet. If your O-ring's new, it could make it feel like there's tension, and there may not be. It's getting there one day. Almost. There we go. Now I just have 2 fingers. Well, finger and a thumb, wise guy. Okay, and that's it there. Now, as I said, and I am going to repeat myself, thumb and index finger. That's all. When you feel it stop, stop. Do not get on there and crank it, because you will puncture the carburetor inside with that, and then you're going to have a leak. Now, this will come out 2.5 turns. You could see the flat side of the screwdriver. I don't know if you could see it real well. So there's the flat side. Half, 1, half, 2.5. Now remember, this one controls air, not fuel. So that's what will lean, enrich, and etc., etc. Let's go to the next one. All right, this is the larger of the 2. The kit did not come with one. I don't like this kit. Now, there was an O-ring that came with the kit, but it doesn't seem, it's too thin. It's dinky. So I broke out my O-ring box and put one in that I have. So you are going to put this in, and you are going to turn it in. And don't get crazy. Once again, you're just going to turn it in until it seats. This controls the air that's going past the bypass screw. Blink, blink. And what this will do is adjust your idle. So turn it in. I can feel that tension, so to speak, friction for the rubber O-ring and the walls of that. And that's perfect, because it won't get a lot of air through there. So that worked good. That's why I didn't use a lot of stuff that came with that kit. Some of that I threw right in the garbage out of frustration. So we are putting this in, turning forever. I'm just turning slow. There we go. It just bottomed right out. Now, what you're going to do is come out 2 turns. Half, 1, half, 2. And that is perfect to get it started up. Now, I cleaned it up, of course, your shutoff valve. With this, to know if it's functioning, you just put your power to it and you'll hear it. It'll make a clicking noise. And you can do that with it on the carburetor. So if you're unsure if it's working, you should have a wire going to there. And it also reaches around to the choke thermostat. And you'll go ahead and test it and listen for it to click, click. We're going to take a 17 millimeter and we're going to snug it up. Again, we're working with aluminum. Don't get crazy. I hate to keep repeating that, but I see people do things and, well, I did them too when I was young. All right, so we are looking good. I'm going to go over some adjustments in a minute for when you're starting it. If, in fact, make sure you put your vacuum caps back on. Just making sure that fit tight. And that there. Make sure they fit tight. If not, air will get past and you'll say, my car won't idle. This one here, you will not put a vacuum cap on if you have an SVDA or a DVDA, which would be a distributor with a vacuum advance. Okay, if you have a mechanical distributor that doesn't require vacuum, then cap that one off too. So we are all set up. Once it pumps full of fuel in the bowl from cranking the car, it should start right up. Now, obviously, it's going to do that first. And then as it warms up, it'll go down air. I have this adjusted perfectly. And you will go ahead and take this screw and adjust it to where you're at 900 RPM. If you want to do 850, that's fine. But don't go below that, and I'll explain why in a second. Once you are at 900, we'll use that as reference. Then go to your screw down below that controls the air. You will turn it out very slowly until you hear the engine start to bog. Slowly turn it back. You'll feel it smooth out clockwise until you hear the engine bog again slightly, but you're turning very slow. When you hear it start to bog, turn it back counterclockwise slowly, I know I'm boring you, until it smooths out, and that is your sweet spot. Once you hit that spot, then go back to your large screw and adjust it to where you're between 850 and 900 RPM. And you're done. Now, if you wonder why I said between 850 and 900, if you try to toggle that thing down and make it idle too low at like 650, what you're used to with some of the newer cars, your engine could possibly start running a little bit hot. That fan needs to roll along at a decent RPM so that it does run cooler. I'm not saying it absolutely will happen to you if you lower the idle lower, but it's a high possibility it probably will run a little on the warmer side. Keep it around 850 to 900 RPM. I see some people run them at 1,000 RPM. My stroker motor, I'm not sure where I'm going to run it yet, but it'll be on the higher side. So thank you to everybody that joined into the chat last Sunday. I know that that was an awkward time, you know, the day before Memorial Day. So we still seen a lot of great folks stop in. We had a great time chatting. It's not even for tech talk and that. It's mostly just to get to know each other and have fun. I have a blast with you folks. I really do. But thank you for being here. Thank you for the donations. I really appreciate it. It helps keep this channel going. It really, really does. I hope everybody has an amazing weekend.